Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Leo archetypes, and I'm going to be using examples of Leo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. So anyway, well, one person that comes to mind is, as far as Leo archetypes go, is, and I think who epitomizes very strong Leo energy is legendary NFL coach Sun in Leo Bill Parcells, and possibly Moon in Leo as well, depending on time of birth. Now, saying he had a very dominant and domineering personality would be really a vast understatement. I mean, if you were in his figurative doghouse, so to speak, he would let you know about it in a very loud and vociferous manner. He struck me as someone that was very authoritative, could be very intimidating and imposing, and he certainly embodied, I think, in my opinion, very strong Leo energy. I would not be surprised if he has a Leo ascendant as well. But I mean, certainly, I mean, Leos, I think, could be very good motivators, and I'm sure he was one. And obviously, I mean, at least to me, got his players to play to their maximum potential. And Leos often, I mean, can have very strong charisma and magnetism. When they walk into a room, they can make their presence known very readily. Two Leo personalities that really stand out and come to mind are Leo. One of them is Leo rising model Heidi Klum, and then the wrestler Hulk Hogan, who has the Sun and Ascendant in Leo. These people can be very flamboyant, I think, very stand out very easily. And the thing about it is, Leo people generally, I mean, don't really have to even make an effort to get attention. It's just like they automatically get it. There's just something about them, their presence, that they just have that ability to stand out more so than any of the other zodiac signs. Now, another person that I see that is very prototypical Leo was my late grandfather, who had his Sun in Leo. I don't know what his ascendant was because I didn't know the time of birth, but I can remember one time that really strongly epitomized his courageous Leo energy. There was a time in the 1940s where a plane had crashed into the Long Island Sound, and he jumped into the intrepid waters of the Long Island Sound and saved one person from potentially drowning. And I mean, this man was only like 5'5", 160 pounds, perhaps soaking wet. I mean, he was diminutive perhaps in stature, but I mean, his character, I mean, stood, and who he was as a person, could arguably, he stood taller than maybe virtually any person that I had ever known. And also, he was somebody that was very magnanimous and generous. I mean, he may be the type of person that would literally give his shirt off the back for somebody. He was there for me a number of times, whether it was whether I may have needed some money, or he may, or whether I needed my bicycle fixed. He was the person that would be there for me. And anyway, well, another person I think that really stands out in terms of Leo energy, and I see as a Leo archetype, was James Brown. I mean, who of course was a musician, entertainer. He had a Leo ascendant, of course, very flamboyant, magnetic energy. He was somebody that commanded attention when he would go on stage, and a very dynamic performer. And Leos are often, Leo personalities are just seem like they are meant for that entertainment field. And one person that I can't, I mean, obviously be oblivious to, that comes out with very strong Leo energy is, of course, the United States President, Donald Trump, who has a Leo ascendant at 29 degrees, which I see as the full culmination of the sign. I mean, he really, he is like really, I mean, if anybody really is emblematic of that Leo energy and epitomizes Leo energy, it's certainly him. He commands a lot of attention. He has a very strong presence, and love him or hate him, I mean, he obviously has a very dominant personality, and he is one of those people that are impossible to ignore. I mean, he might be the U.S. president, but it's almost like he's more of a celebrity than he actually is a president. Part of it has to do with who he was, I guess, prior to becoming the United States president. But he is somebody, I mean, you're talking about Leo rising 29 degrees, and which again I see as the full culmination of the sign. He is somebody, I mean, if he is irritated about something, he will express it with a lot of that Leo rising like ferocity. And I mean, it will be expressed in a very loud and vociferous manner, of course. So anyway, and a lot of times what he says seems like are more dramatized than the average person. I think that a lot of that is his Leo energy coming out. Now, another person that comes to mind that is very typical of Leo, of the zodiac sign Leo, is the late prolific boxer Muhammad Ali, who had a Leo ascendant. I mean, he didn't just conquer opponents, he dominated many of them. And Leo energy is about domination. And I mean, you talk about somebody that was boastful and flamboyant and was very attention-getting, was indeed Muhammad Ali. He would constantly boast, saying that he was the greatest. He'd say, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. But the thing about him was he was able to back up that boastful energy when he would enter the ring, and he did so in a very big way, being the dominant fighter as he was. And I mean, unequivocally, in many people's eyes, he was the greatest fighter of all time. I think he was the greatest boxer that ever lived, pound for pound, but that is just my opinion on it. I mean, he just seemed like he was so far ahead of his time. A lot of that has to do, I think, maybe with his Aquarius moon. He was a transcendent talent, no doubt. Now, another person I think it's interesting, but I've talked about in previous videos that a lot of times, I believe that you have actors and actresses that consciously, if not at times subconsciously, will wind up connecting with roles that correspond with their astrological energies. And I think Ted Danson, who played the bartender on Cheers, is certainly no exception. Now, on the show, he played a bartender, but he was also, I believe, an ex-baseball player, and he would sometimes boast on the show about his achievements as the baseball player. And I think a lot of that could be that Leo moon energy coming out in the show. And it's funny, too, even though he was being flippant and facetious, and this may have been written for him. I don't know if he actually came up with this line or if this was stated to him to say in the commercial. But on the commercial, he said something like legendary actor Ted Danson here. But I mean, he was being flippant and facetious, but just the fact he said it, I thought was funny. It's almost like you're seeing some of that subconscious Leo energy coming out, stating, look how great and wonderful I am, whether it's joking or person's joking about it or not. So anyway, well, another person I think epitomizes strong Leo energy. I have a friend that has the sun and ascendant in Leo, and one time he just looked at me and he said to me, well, why are you so introverted? Well, I could have given him a rambling 2-hour Gemini moon dissertation on that, and stated about, I have a preponderance of astrological energy below the horizon in houses 1 through 6, Saturn in the 12th house, stating that I have a lot of number of planets in feminine signs, etc. But the thing about it is I didn't. But see, he has a very a much more gregarious and extroverted chart. In Leos, I mean, they can't seem to understand introverted energy because they're often just the antithesis of this, which I believe he is. And I mean, it's hard for a lot of times for Leos to understand somebody that is more private and introspective into his or herself. But I felt that he was really embodied strong Leo energy. Now, the thing is, I noticed a lot of very renowned and legendary actors have a Leo Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. You look at 3 people that come to mind that have a Leo Moon. Clint Eastwood, Tom Hanks, and Tom Cruise all have Leo Moons. And Al Pacino and Jack Nicholson both have Leo rising. I mean, Jack Nicholson, in a lot of his movies, you notice he plays someone with a very, fiery temperament and personality, and a and a lot of times a very loud and boisterous kind of character. He is also, too, Robert De Niro and Robert Redford both have Leo suns. And again, going back to Ted Danson having the Leo moon on the commercial, and he said, legendary actor Ted Danson here or something similar. Well, maybe he's a legend in his own mind. But anyway, I'm just joking. I know he was as well in the commercials. So, and a thing, too, is another person that strongly embodies Leo energy, I think, is the unfortunately maligned and vilified Major League Baseball home run king, Barry Bonds, who has a Leo sun. And I mean, he retired shortly after surpassing the all-time career home run mark. Yes, I mean, this is tainted because, of course, of the speculation of him perhaps doing performance-enhancing substances, taking them while, during the time he was playing Major League Baseball to help him get an edge, perhaps, in the game and increase his power numbers. But the thing about it is, Leos like to be king. They like to be, supreme. They, Barry Bonds often admired his home runs when he would hit it, really admiring his accomplishments. And Leos are often, of course, very proud of their accomplishments. Most people may be, regardless of astrological energy and what signs they have in their chart, but Leos even more so, I think, on average. Now, on a more personal note, I'm going to talk about a Leo rising buddy, a friend I had one time. I saw him as the quintessential friend. I mean, he had an Aquarius sun and a Leo ascendant. I mean, and I can remember him standing up for me, at times, and he would, and when he would stand up for me, the people he would be, as far as, whoever it was, he was, standing up for me again, people he would be going at, that he felt were giving me a hard time when he'd be standing up for me. Those people would hardly give him any kind of response because I guess to them, he was very imposing and intimidating. And I think a lot of that was attributed to his Leo ascendant. The thing about him as well, though, I mean, him and I have had a parting of the ways, unfortunately. The thing about it is Leo energy, Leo people generally aren't, vindictive or vengeful, but once they finally do say, I'm not having anything to do with this person anymore, sometimes they can be being a fixed sign. They make their decision, and that's basically it. And then, you could try, a lot of times writing them or whatever, and a lot of times they just say, that's it, and then they close the door on you basically forever. So it's just something to remember as far as Leo people go. Now, I've talked to you, talked before. Again, I want to get to this about how Leo people can subconsciously, or even, people, actors and actresses may, consciously, if not subconsciously, wind up, playing roles that can correspond with their astrological energies. Now, another person is, there was a show called Passions one time, and there was an actor on there, Leo's son. His name is Eric Martsolf, I believe the name was. And I remember there was one scene where, only in movies you see this, I guess. There were some walls, being controlled through a servo or remote control or whatever, that were starting to close in on him, and somebody, put him in some trap or whatever. And what he did was he took a plank of wood out of the ground, out of the floor, and he was using that, I guess, to wedge between these walls that were going to close in on him and crush him. Now, I don't know if that ultimately stopped those walls from coming in on him, but the point I'm making is that Leo's often, I think through, really about, constantly using greater effort in their tenacity, the greater effort on a mental and or physical level will often help them emerge victorious in situations they have no business in winning or emerging victorious. And that was like an example right there. I mean, that's what Leo energy can be about. They often can get out of these situations, extricate themselves from situations that might seem insurmountable to others, with that really about their staying power in that mindset. Well, I'm going to try to do this a little bit better. I'm going to do something, maybe different than I did the last time, and keep trying different things until it actually is successful and I'm able to get out of the situation. So, and anyway, another thing I want to talk about too, what really comes to mind I see as a very strong Leo archetype actually, is the former prolific NBA player Reggie Miller. Now, as many of you may know, Reggie Miller was, really notorious for trash talking. I mean, he backed a lot of it up, of course. He was one of the best shooters we've ever seen, three-point shooters, very accurate. And there was somebody had asked him on on TV, on television one day, and I don't know if it was a Sports Center or NBA show or something, and they asked Reggie Miller, are you, who is the best clutch shooter of all time? And he said, something like, you know better than to ask me that. I'm going to say me. And he said it was him. He said that that he was the best, clutch shooter, whatever, of all time. And the thing about it is he does have a Leo moon, and Leo people are really, they're the ones that want to be king. They want to often be the ones that are supreme, that want to be acknowledged as the best. An argument could be made that Michael Jordan, I think, may have actually been the best clutch shooter of all time, but Reggie Miller certainly wasn't going to acknowledge it. And I think maybe the fact that him and Michael Jordan, of course, as many of you may know, their situation, I don't know if they've mended fences now or reconciled, but their situation was a little bit contentious, at least on the court. They seemed very adversarial. There was a time, some of you basketball fans may remember when Michael Jordan had actually punched Reggie Miller in the face one time in a basketball game. So I mean, they're obviously, anyway. That's basically, well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Leo archetypes. Stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about Virgo archetypes. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.